Welcome to the Virtual Compound, the show for military spouses and women navigating life, purpose, and growth. We're here to have real conversations and share inspiring stories, hopefully, and explore the journey of becoming the strongest version of yourself, no matter where life takes you. Welcome back to the Virtual Compound. Today we are talking about the changes we've made this season and the 4 pillars that we stand on, and we'll be kind of covering all season long. It is 4 o'clock in Southern California on a Thursday.
It is currently 6 o'clock in Oklahoma on Thursday.
It is 8 a.m. on Friday in Okinawa.
I'm on a bit of vacation, so our timing is off even more than usual.
So why the 4 pillars and what are the 4 pillars? Let's start with that.
And also for anybody watching this, I might go completely black in a moment because there's a thunderstorm and we keep losing power. So I apologize. So our 4 pillars are fitness, military, parenting, and books. Which some of those closer to my heart than others. Some different seasons of life, they're more necessary than others, I feel like. But in general, it's what makes us who we are.
Yeah, most definitely. And I mean, there are times when some things come first. I think that those are kind of the 4 things that help us keep our sanity, that motivate, guide us, and are a huge part of our life. But sometimes they have to shuffle around. Like right now, we're retired, but the military is still a really big part of our lives. But aside from parenting always kind of being at the top for me, like fitness is getting back into fitness postpartum is really like where I'm focused right now.
In general, with life and what it is, I am very much in the books pillar of life, partly for life distractions, not from my home life. My home life is fine. It's more of like the world and its chaos and whatever that looks like. That's probably where I lean. I would love to lean into all of them. Love to lean into fitness on a personal level, but sometimes that just doesn't work out quite as well as I want. And the military, though we live near a base and it's wrapped with that, our current location is just not conducive to family military life. So that's not. I just had like a toothpick as a military pillar at this moment in my
As far as
journey.
community goes, you mean?
Yes, as far as community, obviously full in it, not getting away from that. But that's where I am right now.
I'm deep in all of it except fitness, which I should be. I still like work out and do the things, but finding the time is hard. And I also hate working out. I only do it because I love cake, and sweets and eating unhealthy. So, that's like my only motivation for working out because I really, really, really dislike it a lot. But parenting, military, we live on a military base in a foreign country and we're surrounded by it all the time. The rumbling jets over my house that shake the pictures on my walls are like a consistent reminder that the only reason we live here is because of the military. Um, and books. I actually run 3 book clubs. They're all kids book clubs. So I have to like pre-read all the books that we read, and in one month I read like I think it was like 30 books to try to read get
Wow.
all of these. They're kid books. They're chapter books, but like to
There's
try to
still,
like find books for the kids.
Mhm.
yeah,
'Cause
That's
I
my
don't how
dream,
like
but
morally corrupt
yeah.
well, I mean, some of them were like Miss Pickle Wickle, so like we're not talking like thick books that take me that long to read, and
right.
some of them, you can skip a couple paragraphs because you're not encountering things we don't want our children reading.
Yes.
So, yes, but all of it, trying to get deeper into fitness. I
But
just don't want to. You. And
Fitness
it's
has been a
hot here.
Yes.
it's hot well, not everywhere, I guess, but fitness has been a big part of my identity for a really long time. But right now I'm just focused on me because I may or may not have tried to eat my way into getting pregnant with twins two different times and it didn't work because I'm just not meant to have twins.
It's not happening.
I love food too. And I eat like a trash panda. And so, kind of same, but, but it's
Yeah, but
definitely
you have
still
the
something
motivation that I don't.
I do. It's just finding the time with little ones on separate schedules. And you can hear this one being super fussy right now. But I mean, we wanted to narrow down these four pillars to kind of hone in and have more speakers and guests and different people on the podcast. But I think that using these four things, we can actually help people far better than if we went more broad on all of our topics like we did last season. So this season we're kind of honing in on different elements. Sometimes we'll have a common theme amongst the four pillars. Sometimes they'll be standing independently. But we do have some guests that we'd like to get on just because we want to give back to the military community first and foremost. But we've lived through each of these elements and these pillars enough that I think that we do have something, each of us and together, independently and together, to offer people to kind of help. And that's really what it comes down to, is helping people.
Yes. So let's start kind of breaking them down. We're going to start with fitness. And we're not talking like six packs and bikinis and trying to get up there to do bodybuilding. That's not what any of us are like into, to be honest. Like I also like cake, but I also like anything that I want to eat.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just about how we look, it's more about our quality of life. It's about being able to do things as a parent, as a wife, for our family. My husband will come home, he's like, "Hey, I put something in the cart where we love to buy our equipment from." And he's like, "What do you think?" And I'm like, "Dude, it's health insurance." I am more than happy to buy any piece of equipment because it's literally extending our health and our longevity if we're putting the time in at the gym. But I mean that goes back to nutrition, and that's where I can really geek out, as we talked about in like the last episode. Like nutrition is where I did the most research and I learned the most when we started getting fit 15 years ago. And while I don't always follow the things I know I need to do, um, there are still those little consistencies that kind of help and build that. But it's fitness isn't just something that our husbands influence because of their jobs, or we can't help them with, with the nutrition as the person cooking or whatever. But it definitely makes us better at parents. And so they all kind of go together. Maybe not so much books, but fitness, military, and parenting, like they all kind of build together in that same, you know, area.
Yes. Sorry, I was muted.
Well, I'm looking at Amelia and she's
Yes.
just like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's it is. It's more, it's less about like I look great in a swimsuit and all the things, and more about like I want to be able to play with my kids and do the things that they want to do. I want to be
Hmm.
able to go on the hike, and even when I'm older, and I think especially being here in Japan, you see like they move a lot more and they're active so much more into a later age. And you see the like, especially in Okinawa, we have the most 100-year-old people. We're a blue zone. You
Hmm.
see these people that are like they have to be in their 90s and they're walking around parks. And they are with their grandchildren and stuff. And I want to be able to do that as well. Um,
Hmm.
and also moving and doing something for yourself and for your body, it helps like clear your mind, grip your mental load a little bit. Even if it's not
Yeah.
some like punishing workout, sometimes I will just go for a walk. It does feel
Yeah.
like a
Well,
punishing workout right now because it's like 103, but
yes, that would probably be it. Well, and I think that especially having been through COVID now in situations where we were so limited on what we could do and fitness, being able to do it at my house was kind of that outlet because I didn't have the ability to get through a lot of stuff and kind of a mental release. Not for everybody. I know that. Like I recognize that not everybody feels the same way when they're finished with a workout in the way of they don't have that endorphin dump. But um I think for so many military spouses who live in either during a deployment or in like a high activity zone. That's not the right word. What do we say?
Mm, mm, mm. The word. Yep,
Yeah,
it's a word. It's a good
it's a
word.
word. Very fast paced. We'll just go with that. Like being in an area that where it's either deployments or they're very fast paced activity level for the active duty. So the active duty spouse might be gone for essentially business trips every couple of weeks or for longer periods of time. And if you're overseas and they're back in the States and you can't go back in the States, it really was a better way of trying to work through some of that anxiousness or difficulty when you didn't have another outlet. It's a fairly safe outlet to be able to make friends and to work through the highs and lows of the military life and the schedule that we're in because there's nothing consistent in our life except for inconsistency.
Yeah. I mean, and that's something that like, the military and like as we talk about the military and everything, like I want to be able to give back to young spouses because there was so much I didn't know. Granted, we didn't have the internet to the degree we do now. And there weren't Facebook pages that you could just go and ask. But even seeing that, there's a lot of young women and young spouses that they just don't know how things work. And they have to go and ask, and it becomes an echo chamber. And not like there are different answers for each person, but there is a consistency across each duty station. What there is available there and what kind of the habits are. But there's so much, well, I heard this, well, I heard this, when they haven't lived through it. And so I feel like there's really something that we can give back to the military community, and sharing our experiences and what we've learned and what we've witnessed. But they we've raised our children. I've raised, four kids essentially within the military, and one of them is now dating a Marine. And I never ever thought that that would happen. I never thought that she would date a Marine seriously or consider marriage with anyone in the military because she didn't, as much as she loved moving around and she'd get that itch every 3 years, that was not something she wanted for her kids. That was not the lifestyle she wanted. So, as much as she understands it and she spent her entire life thus far surrounded by it, she's willing to jump back in it. And I mean, we've known spouses that have done the same thing. They've married military as a military brat, but there's so much that they still have to learn because as a kid, you experience things differently than the parents, like being apart for deployments, having to PCS. Like it's not just like, oh, I show up and do what my parents tell me, or I know I'm going to be sleeping at the SeaTac airport when we're PCSing overseas or anything like that. Like it's so much more of an organization game. It's the interaction with people at shops, all of those things. Like there's so much within the military that we've learned that it's like an entirely separate education.
No one wants to be like the dependent that like, your husband's spouse is your life, your husband's spouse. I need more coffee. Your spouse is your life and his job is your life or her job is your life. But like it almost kind of becomes that way because you're told where to live and not even
Yeah.
just physically, like you're going to move to this place. Like you're at times given a house. It's
Yeah.
like, this is your house, enjoy. Like, but I don't want that house. It's like, too bad. That's your house.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then you
Um,
try to use Chat GPT to organize the house and it can't
no,
compute.
the house is so poorly laid out that it breaks Chat GPT. Um, but it does kind of become it starts to shape your identity and who you are as a person because the people that are in it, my husband will be in the military for 17 years this year, and it's like you you become so independent and so like used to not necessarily like being alone, but just like I can do this. It'll be fine.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's not always hard. It's not always bad, but it like shapes and kind of grows you as a person. The whole being in the military, being a part of the military and things that like aren't so not normal. It's there's a I think it's a saying elsewhere, but I learned it at A&M. Um, and it's on many several shirts because, Texas A&M kind of like a cult. Um, but it says from the outside or from the inside looking out, you can't explain it. And from the outside looking in, you can't understand it. And it's like
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
Like it's
Yeah.
so hard to explain what it's like. And also, I kind of want to be like, I'm not in a cult, but it kind of
But
feels that way sometimes. Like we all
I
know the
know.
same songs and we all like at 5 o'clock when
And
the little song goes off, we all stop. It's like
yes.
yeah, there are
Yeah.
things that it's like, oh, this is normal. Doesn't everyone stop their cars at 5 o'clock and listen to the national anthem? No? Okay.
All right. Sweet.
But
All
not
right.
Well,
even across like all bases either. Like
yeah.
Yeah.
Okinawa is a very unique place. Um, and I think that that's one of the beautiful things about it.
Yeah.
But we do have a common vernacular that most people are like, what? I heard a Marine listing off a bunch of them, and I actually sent it to my husband, not that he watches them, but to ask him, like, I've not heard these two, the first two, and I can't remember what they are, but there are so many that I use every day that I think are common, but they're military,
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
circle back.
Yeah. Well, that's one of those areas though that like for this pillar that I think is so good for us is with our collective years and singular years in this, we have
Mhm.
figured out a lot of it. There's still a lot we don't know, but then
Oh
we
yeah.
think back to when we were new and all of the people we come across now who are new, who are totally lost. And there are a lot more, there's a lot of resources out there, but there are a lot more groups from what I can tell for the officer side and not as much for the
Yeah.
enlisted side. But the information is largely the same across both. So being able to use this pillar of the podcast to help give that information to the men and women who need it, because active duty sometimes also need this information. Um, if not just to see it from our side, because especially if they're marrying a little bit later, we're getting a little deep into this, but
Yeah.
um yeah, I think that if they're marrying young, but they already understand some part, they have a hard time translating that over to their spouse, and you just really need another spouse to be able to understand that. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's a big part of this pillar.
I would have loved a podcast like this because I wouldn't have gone to ask the question.
Yeah,
But to see like it's not just one person saying this, but to kind of have an understanding, like some anonymous person isn't replying to my question on Facebook, the Facebook group or whatever. It's like
right.
I can kind of go and see who that person is or what they like. I kind of know their history, so that makes more sense. Not that, we're the experts, like you said, on anything, but we've learned a hell of a lot and we've
Yeah,
lived through it. And I don't know. I know who I was. It would have been very helpful to feel like it wasn't just somebody answering my question, but somebody that legitimately cared about me, like a mentor. And I know that there are some people that just like seek that out. And,
yeah.
I want to be able to give back to a community that, I mean, it's given us our life. And I'm really grateful for what we have and the time that my husband was in the Marine Corps. So, you know,
Well, and each of us transitioned from our newly married or early lives into parenting while in the military. And that
yeah.
is another area. And then, of course, what brought the three of us together was being parents, right? Like
Hmm.
we wouldn't have crossed paths as easily had our children not been dancing. And then we became closer friends because of some of those times. And then we share, like we were talking about earlier, you can just drop your preteen or your future teenager off with me, go take your break. I'll return, like going back and forth and being able to juggle parenting on its own is difficult. Doing it in the military is that much more difficult, and doing it in the military when your family isn't around or your spouse is not even anywhere close. I think that that's another good area um
Yeah.
where we can share our hacks. I don't know that knowledge is really the right word for that one because parenting is what it is. Um, I
Yeah.
feel like
Well, I
everything is
was
a
just
hack.
telling one of my kids a couple nights ago, there was like a little bit of a hard moment. And I was like, look, you guys, when I became a mom, I didn't get a manual. Okay. And not only did I not get a manual, and I'm figuring this out as I go, and while I've been doing this a long time, I'm going to get it wrong. Each of you is different.
Yeah,
And I didn't get any like warning that you would all be so different. And so I would need six different manuals versus just like two for boy girl. And so you're gonna have to tell me if I'm messing up. Like I need that feedback. Like, hey, mom, you're doing an okay job, but can you like do this thing? This is also what I need. Like I need you to articulate that. We need to work together because I don't want to be a bad mom. I'm like an okay mom, and that's fine. Like that's what I'm going for here is just being an okay mom because I know I'm gonna fail. I'm like, okay, that's not true. I want to be the best mom, but I know I'm an okay mom. And so I'm okay with being an okay mom, even though I'm trying really hard to be the best. I'm an okay mom, and that's fine because I know I'm at least trying my best.
yeah.
I'm gonna fail, but I want to do everything I can for them. I want to give them every opportunity. I want to give them all the love and attention and everything that they need, but I don't know what they need if they don't tell me what they need now that they're getting older and they can. So, there's no manual, but that's fine. We're
But
figuring
with
it
a
out.
support team, you can
Hmm.
make it happen.
I mean, I think I just agree with everything Lacey said. Like there isn't a manual and no one and like, kids are different and they're all different and all the things. But it's not like the doctor hands you the baby or whoever hands you the baby. It's like, hello, this one completely different. Like also kind of mean. Like,
Right,
or like they don't, you're not like just like bestowed with this knowledge about your children when they're born. And I think the biggest thing is like without community, I probably would be a much worse parent because without seeing how other parents parent and being like, hey, my kid's doing this, help. Like your
right.
kid turned out pretty well, or like your 16-year-old seems very well adjusted, and has conversations with adults and looks them in the eye. How'd you get there? Um,
Yeah.
you know, I think having other parents and community and other people, even just to talk to or commiserate with, is so key. And in this community, military community, parenting, I think makes it even harder because, you leave and then you're like, oh, now I have no friends. Or
Yeah,
you don't leave like me and your friends just leave you and you spend like a couple of months. You're like, I have no friends until you make more
Yeah.
friends.
right.
And that's also hard for your kids, parenting them through the fact that like they're in an almost like constant, not
Change.
upheaval, but like change. They're like
Yeah.
Flux. Yeah,
constant change.
yeah.
Their dads, even if they stay in one place, their dad's job changes or their mom's job changes and their friends change. And
Right.
yeah, it's
The only
like,
constant is change in the military,
yes,
for sure.
Yes.
yeah. And,
Um,
all the parenting books and all the things say like children need routine and schedule and they need like consistency and all this stuff. It's like, well, that's literally not our life
Yeah,
right.
it's the opposite.
at all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Your
and
books
like
suck.
that's true. And it reminds me of one of the he's like he does parenting stuff, but he does like political stuff too. But he's a former, I think, Green Beret. And he was talking about it kind of unlocked something for me. And he was talking about how when his son was mama's little boy until he turned 7, And then he was playing or wrestling with his dad and let out this like guttural like cry, this roar. And she just kind of looked at him like, what happened to my little boy? And he looked
Right.
at his wife and he said, he's mine now.
Hmm.
And that's why like Spartans used to take the boys when they were like 7 or 8 years old, and that's when they would start like their journey to become a warrior, because that's when the age it happens. And and my son is very like he's more gentle and just like calm than most boys are, and always has been. That's his personality. But I realized that's the year that my husband was in school, and then another school, and then prepping for deployment, and then deployed, and then he got back, and this boy was now like venturing into young manhood. And so he didn't get to do like those things with him. And
Yeah.
he missed his birth, his only son. And oh my gosh, the baby is so angry. Do you want me to stand? Yep. And so he missed these opportunities. Like he doesn't get to do it all over again. Like, and so that's the hard thing. We are focused on like being primary parent and raising these kids to do certain things. But like we also forget that our husbands are like navigating so much outside of parenting, that like that's one more thing that they miss out on too.
Yeah.
You know, to move us along in the podcast, there's all of our husbands are Marines, so I don't know if this holds true for like other services, but I know Marines, they get these little books and they're called pubs. And we move around. I don't know if y'all do. We move around with like a giant box of these. And I don't
Yes.
think that they actually like physically publish them anymore. I think that like now you have to like go seek them out and they're like all online. But
Oh, I
they're
didn't
on
know
like
that.
silly, like not silly topics. They're like important things. Some of them are like, how to use this thing and like how to whatever. But then some of them are also like how to dress,
Yeah, it was
proper
like the full
civilian
uniform
attire.
one. Yes.
Yeah, and like there's all these like little tiny books that we just like move around with now. And I guess they're like he's so old, they're like antique. Um, because I think that they don't print them anymore.
I'm gonna have to look that
But
up. I
all
didn't
that to
realize they
say,
didn't print them.
like he wasn't handed one of these little books for like marriage or parenting or anything else, you know?
Yeah.
And, like that's what we talk about as we're just talking about like we weren't given a manual for any of this and our spouses weren't either. But um, you know, we do like love books
Oh yeah.
and that's the like ridiculous transition I'm going to use to talk about our next pillar because
I love
while
it
we
though.
weren't
It's
given
great.
a lot of books on how to do things, the military does one thing pretty well. We've got some pretty great libraries,
We do. We
especially
do.
overseas. I remember reading a post before we moved to Japan. Um, and it was like, bring all the books. There are no
Yes.
English books out here. And I was like, what? Why wouldn't there be books in English? It's like, oh, because it's Japan.
Yeah.
Of course, they're not going to sell books in English. And we have to sit through this newcomer's brief that we all, remember. It's
Yeah.
like 8 hours. It's awful.
It's so long.
It's so terrible. There's
It's so
nothing good
long.
about it. And the
No.
library people, like it's decent. They like introduce things. I'm sure it has some value and whatever. I'm just old and salty and I didn't want to do it. But the
Yeah,
library
but we
came on and
also
they
were
were,
so deep sleep deprived that I don't
yes,
remember most of it either.
the library came, people come and they like talk about the things. And I remember them talking about all the stuff that they had. And I was like, this is really impressive. Like,
Yeah.
wow, this is going to be really cool. And I think it is like all the things together. The thing the military out here, and even in Lejeune, we had a really great library, does well is they like provide that outlet for everyone, for the spouses and the kids and the young Marines. They always have some really great, like, they've managed to hire some pretty great librarians and um, just people that are really invested in the community and getting people reading and interacting and coming to the libraries. Like, there was a really fun, like, hot chocolate and big band night at the library right before
Ooh,
Christmas, and they did like Christmas music and had hot chocolate. They did a Taylor Swift party at the library. So, yeah, that's my silly transition into our next pillar, which is books. And it kind of brings us all together. I'm
it
a
does.
non-discrimination reader. I will read anything. I don't love nonfiction, but I'll
Yeah,
read it because it sometimes makes me a better person.
yeah, I'll read it. I will probably fight it, but I'll read it. And I'll usually end up better for it. But there are some that I'm like, oh, that was a waste. That was a waste of my hours of listening or reading or whatever. Slug through it. But you know, I think that especially in this last year with the bookish mill spouse and all of the military spouses like group, and it's kind of crazy that now I'm feeling that community more in um the book world when finding military spouses who are into the same books. I think partly like book clubs, I could go do it with anybody where I am. There's just something about having an extra level of connection there beyond just like the book or just
Hmm.
the military, being able to combine the two into, hey, we may not have the same views on everything else, but we have two things in common. And we can choose then to move forward with those two things in common. And then, it becomes more things in common, or it doesn't. But I've I have felt in the last 6 months, because that's about the amount of time that I've been with the bookish mill spouses. I've felt a more connection to more than just the three of us when it comes to books. Of course, it also helps throwing Amy into the deep end in the books with that we were doing too. There's that. But I love books. I love them as an escape. I love them as a I don't always like self-help depending on what they're talking about, but I usually can find things in almost any book that applies or feel like, okay, I should make sure I don't do that. And books are just so wonderful. They're just wonderful. It's just how I feel.
Yeah, same. I read a lot while nursing when I had the first four. I have less time for that now. But clearly I have chatterboxes, so I must read enough because their vocabulary is extensive even at a few months.
It's just a few months old.
But I think like books are so important. And I think within the military, like again, with kids and moving the things, that's a consistency thing for them. Oh my.
Yeah,
And
her voice
like
is taking over your microphone. It wasn't, but now it's like
I will be
drowning you
heard.
out.
oh yeah. And so I think that the books for kids, it's a consistency thing. Like they can have that wherever they go. It's a great, um skill for them to be a voracious reader because it makes them a better student. Like even here stateside, like in Camp Pendleton, there's a librarian who is just phenomenal. She remembers my 2 year old every time we go in there and talks to her. She saves her books when they have like the ones that they give out that they get an excess of like a shipment. She'll save a couple of them for when we come in, which is sometimes once a month or, whenever I feel like going and returning the books and exchanging them because that's just me right now. But
Yes, me too. I also turn my books in once a month.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
Yes.
it's fine. Books are just it's so good for kids to have those, and I think that that's one pillar of our friendship that's really strong. And I mean, we all, like you said, we all have our different types and styles and seasons and things we read. Like right now, I'm in kind of like a candy reading fun, like playful book
Mhm.
phase right now. And I'm not so much into like the mysteries. And I don't know if it's like summer or if it's just where my headspace is or if it's because I'm nursing and I just need like happy, upbeat, fun stuff because, sunshine and happiness. I'm not sure. But we love books and I think that, we can we can offer some fun insight or at least recommendations because we do read so much between the three of us that we can
Yes.
offer up, a whole platter of recommendations for people.
Yeah. And so going forward, some of these will focus on a single pillar in an episode, or we might jump into. But our plan now is to kind of rotate through our four pillars and whether in various states. It's not always going to be like fitness this week. This is what we did for workouts. Like we'll get more
Mm.
interesting and broad span. But if you've probably listened to the other ones earlier in the year, we had a breakdown of a couple of books already. And then Amelia and I and Lacey is back and forth on this one. But Amelia and I and a surprise guest are going to get together to do the next one soon. And we'll kind of rotate through them, but you'll be seeing that of we want to bring more of what we have lived through to everybody else to help with everything that we can. Whatever we
Yeah.
feel like we can support the world or
Yeah.
create our own new community, the virtual
Yeah.
compound.
And sometimes we'll have a series, like a series across all four that kind of
Yeah,
are cohesive. Like the one I'm like most excited about, we got to talking about when there was a huge egg shortage, but it dove into a deeper topic. But I'm really excited to talk about
and
like the financial aspect and like savings and like just how to stretch a military budget on one income, like one military income, and because we can't always
across,
work. So
yeah, and to
just
do it
little
across
things like
all
that.
four areas, it'll be really
Yes.
cool. I'm excited for
Yeah.
that one. Yes,
Yeah.
very much.
But yeah, those are the four pillars. And, you know, my baby clearly has a lot of thoughts on this, but
She does, but it's all good.
Their high thoughts
Um,
are so cute.
Tell us which pillar you're focusing on in life. It may not be one of ours, but let us know what area of your life is a strong pillar for you.
DMS, drop a comment, or send us an email.
So if you're excited to listen about fitness, you can listen to our last episode. Or if you're waiting for one of our next pillars, tune in next week. We'll be dropping another episode, hopefully, unless this one has a different plan.
Babies do. But until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.